When I grew up as a kid, I was in the 5th and 6th grade, I remember that I lived on the end of a dead-end street, actually partway down a dead-end street. And on the end of the dead-end street, there was a bog. A bog is like a swamp or a marsh. This was a deep bog. A dark bog. A mucky bog. We called it the Mucky Bog. And there were stories about a creature that lived in the mucky bog called the Bogwaddle. Now, I remember when I was in the 6th grade, they brought university professors from the University of Wisconsin to test and to measure and to search for the Bogwaddle. They didn't find any proof that he was real or that he wasn't. But of the kids in our neighborhood, we all knew he was real. And my neighbor that lived on the edge of the bog, Joe and his wife, Linda, they knew the Bogwaddle was real. We would sit there on Joe's porch. Linda made a great apple pie, and we would eat apple pie in the evenings, and he would tell us about the Bogwaddle. We'd say, Joe, have you ever seen it? Seen it! Never the whole thing at once. A back here, a flipper there, fins sticking up out of the bog. But I've smelled it. Woo! Whoa, baby. That's nasty. Well, Joe, what does it look like? Look like? It's 35 feet long, 8 feet high. It's got 5 flippers on every side. Leathery, slimy, smooth gray skin. Its eyes are the size of a bowling pin. Its mouth is as big as the trunk of a car. Glistening white teeth like a shark. He's like a grandpa in a 12-year-old's body. I'm like, how'd you do that? You're pretty cool. You should be a rap singer. Thank you very much. Thank you. I say, Joe, where does it come from? Come from? Well, it crawled from the bog. It crawled from the bog. It crawled from the bottom of the mucky bog. You want to try that with me? It crawled from the bog. It crawled from the bog. It crawled from the bottom of the mucky bog. Turn to the person next to you. Bog. Well, Joe, what does it eat? What does it eat? Well, most folks say it eats little kids that are in the 4th and 5th grade. But I'm not sure what it eats. I'm going to find out. And that was Joe's quest. He'd always walk off into the bog singing, it crawled from the bog. It crawled from the bog. It crawled from the bottom of the mucky bog. And then he started dressing up like different foods to see if he could fool the Bogwaddle into chasing him. Remember, he dressed up like a pepperoni pizza. He glued pepperonis all over his body. He went walking up into the bog. Crawled from the bottom of the mucky bog. And one day, dressed up like a salad, glued little croutons all over his body. I didn't do it either. The day I remember most, though, was the day that Joe dressed up like a banana. Had a yellow rain slicker on, yellow rain pants on. He smeared banana guts all up over his body. And he went off into the bog singing, it crawled from the bog. It crawled from the bog. It crawled from the bottom of the mucky bog. He came back a little while later, crawled from the bottom of the mucky bog. He hadn't had any success once again. And now Linda had been asking him for months to fix the shingles up on the roof. And this day, Joe must have decided it was time to do it. And he decided to do it before changing out of his banana wardrobe. So while he was still dressed up like a banana, he got a long bungee cord and he tied it to the back end of his car and flipped it up over the roof to the back side of the house. Then he tied the other end around his waist. And he kind of cinched it up tight so he could sit on the roof and had the bungee cord like a stretchy rope, went up over the roof down to the car on the other side. And he started playing with it, kind of. He had, in one hand, he had a hammer, and the other nails. He was kind of jumping off the roof backward. Whoa! Cool. He started throwing things off the roof so he could jump down to the ground, bounce back up, pick them up again. Cool. He started dropping apples off head first. Oh! A little too far there. And he was hammering and he was singing. Ready? It crawled from the bog. It crawled from the bog. It crawled from the bottom of the mucky bog. And that's when Linda came outside. She didn't know Joe was on the roof, and she didn't know that he was attached to a bungee cord, and she didn't know that the bungee cord was attached to the back of her car. But it was time for choir practice, and Linda was never late for anything. She got into the car. I remember yelling out, "No, Linda!" But she didn't hear me. She had the windows rolled up. She started the engine. I said, "Joe, untie the rope." He's like, "Crawl from the, huh?" All of a sudden, he saw that bungee cord stretching tight. Uh-oh. He grabbed hold of the antenna. The antenna's bending over like this. He's holding on the end of it like this. It's pulling him. And finally, pew! He snapped off of that roof, shot off there faster than I've ever seen anyone shoot off a roof attached to a bungee cord on a moving vehicle before. By that time, Linda was halfway down the block. She came to the edge of the street. Joe shot in front of her like this. Ah! He's coming back at her 900 miles an hour. Here she is sitting in the car. She sees her husband dressed up like a banana. Woo! She freaked out. Ah! She hit the car in the reverse. She started going backwards, started going forward, backwards. She didn't know what she's doing. Joe, he's picking up steam each time. Backward, forward, backward, forward. All the neighbors come out. He's like a ping pong ball. Joe's like a ping pong ball. Joe's like a ping pong ball. What's going to happen next? Boom. She backed up into the barricade that separated the road from the bog, and Joe, smack dab into the middle of the bog. Disappeared. Tommy and I are running down there. We run up. There's Linda holding on the steering wheel like this. Those fingerprints were still embedded in the steering wheel 8 years later when they sold the car. He said, "Are you right?" Where's Joe? We looked into the bog. We could see some big waves moving through the bog. All of a sudden we said, "Linda, hit the gas." She hit the gas, spun the tires. All of a sudden, boop, this banana-flavored missile comes shooting up out of the bog. It's Joe. He's still holding on to that hammer. And then his bungee cord wrapped around the tree. He's hanging from the tree like this, hammer in his hand. And attached to the hammer, on the end of the hammer, is something long, slimy, and gray. It was the lower lip of the Bogwaddle. And Joe's saying, "I knew it was bananas! I knew it was bananas!" That night, as we were eating some apple pie over there on Joe and Linda's porch, he told us what it was like to fly off the roof and to fly underneath the bog and to be under the bog and see the Bogwaddle, huge old Bogwaddle, coming after him, slurp onto his arm. But then he said, "But then, Linda, hit the gas. I'm going to let you drive from now on." "Oh, thank you, Joe." Lurched me out of the bog. And that Bogwaddle's lip had stretched about 12, 15 feet underneath the bog before it snapped off, attached to Joe's hammer. Well, the last I heard, Joe and Linda moved up to Scotland somewhere, bought 600 pounds of bananas and 942 feet of bungee cord. Last I heard, he was exploring some lake up there, looking for something else. But if you go back to my street where I grew up, and you listen to the kids, they'll still tell you stories about the Bogwaddle because they still know it's there. Although now it's angry because it has only one lip. And it's looking for someone named Joe who smells and looks an awful lot like a giant banana. And the kids in the neighborhood will still, if you ask them, sing, "It crawled from the bog. It crawled from the bog. It crawled from the bottom of the mucky bog."